I think one of the things that we might need to be careful of when we study the New Testament, when we study the Gospels, is we have to be very gracious with these people when we understand the radical nature of what Jesus is coming and bringing, both through his actions and his teaching. Because he comes with the force of these miraculous acts on the one hand, and yet he comes with a kind of teaching that is so unsettling to the historical groundwork that lay there in Judaism. And here is John, who his ministry, his baptism of Jesus, his ministry has led him to deprivation. It'll ultimately lead to his beheading. And he's up against it, and it's as though he looks at his own plight, he looks at Jesus doing these things, he sees the cultural chaos around him, he sees the ideological chaos that's going on, and he is grappling with the kingdom. So here's the first thing. The kingdom of God's worth grappling with. Like, the first thing to note is that, like, if John the Baptizer has a challenge understanding the mission of Jesus, and he needs reassurance concerning the ministry of Jesus, it's okay for you to need reassurance concerning the ministry of Jesus. It's okay. It's tough to grapple with. It's okay for you to explore it a little bit. It's okay for you. Now, here's the thing about Jesus. Jesus is a sort of like, let's follow the evidence kind of person, right? So what does Jesus do in response to people who question the validity of him and his kingdom? What does he do with that? Well, there's two kinds of people, right? There's a kind of cynical skeptic, Pharisee. There's a kind of fides quorens intellectum. There's a kind of faith-seeking understanding. John the Baptizer is indicative of that. Tax collectors in the Gospels are indicative of that. The disciples, Peter, even Thomas, is indicative of that. They're not indicative of this kind of skepticism that's just looking to stand and be critical. They're looking and saying, I don't get this. Help me grasp what I can of this so that upon which I stand. I mean, Jesus says, right, build your house on this foundation, dig it out, build it on my teaching. And they're saying, I want to, but like, I gotta understand the rocks a little more. Can you help me? And so this is what happens. So Jesus will say things like John 14:11, believe me that I am in the Father and the Father is in me, or else believe on account of the works themselves. If you don't believe what I'm saying, just look at what I've done. In verse 22, right? Just let your eyes go to verse 22. This is what he does in response to this. You go tell John, right, what you've seen. Tell him the blind receive their sight, the lame walk, lepers are cleansed, deaf hear, dead are raised, poor have the good news preached to them. The proof's in the pudding. Proof's in the pudding. Thomas comes famously in John 20, 24 through 29. Jesus, of course, condescends to him in his weakness. The point is, Jesus is okay with you and with me grappling with the nature of his kingdom. And the reason is that the more I understand of my faith and the more I understand of the nature of the project that Jesus is about, namely establishing the rule of God over my life and over your life through the vehicle of his church, when I get that, that gives me a kind of confidence now of happening to it, right? My goal is not certainty. That's not my goal. My goal is to grow in my understanding such that faith itself becomes more robust and that I find myself not yielding to doubt, but playing with doubt in a healthy way that complements my faith in a further quest to understand more.